What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Trench Warfare Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Thorne, and today I have a special episode for you because I am welcoming guest Duke Manyweather to the show, and we are going to be selecting our offensive line all-pro teams. We're going to be doing first, second, and third team, so we're going to get into quite a few players here, which is nice to give some recognition to some maybe a little bit lesser known guys that have emerged this year. So we did that. And in addition to that, I'm also going to be kind of combining the trench report into this as well, where Duke and I, after the all pro team selections, are going to be going into some trends that we've seen studying film this year from an offensive and defensive line perspective, mentioning along the way some players that are underrated, some players that are, dominant, and also some schematic things that we've seen, and of course we're going to go into the development world with regarding offensive line play with Duke, who is, as you guys know, is pretty much the best in the business. Without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and get into this conversation. What's going on, Duke? How you doing,
Brandon,
man?
what's up, Thorne? I'm glad to be back on the pod. It has been really busy season with work and then also family life. As you know, we've
Right.
been constant communication, but just trying to align the times to actually hop on and put this out for the people has been difficult, but it's coming right at the midpoint of the season, so I think it's good.
Yeah, it works out. I'm glad we're able to just get on here. I know, you now having two little ones at home and that whole adjustment, that's a
Yeah,
big adjustment, going one to two. So I totally
huge
get it.
adjustment.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So yeah, I totally understand it, man. But yeah, just at the midway point here, this is a great time to check in and just kind of take a survey in a way of just kind of line play across the league. And what I wanted to kick off with was the all pro teams, and just the guys that we think have been the best at each of their positions.
Mhm.
And I wanted to do a three deep as well. So we're gonna do first, second, third team all pros. That way we could cover some of those guys on the third all pro team that probably don't get a lot of recognition that we think are deserving, while also covering all the big names as well. And there may be some surprises too. So um, yeah, I think that's going to allow us to have a lot of good discussions here. So yeah, we'll kick it off with the first team, and we'll start at left tackle. So I'll let you do it. The guest goes first here. So who for you is the best left tackle in football here between week 8 and week 9?
Yeah, so this is interesting, and it opens up a lot of great conversation. We've got some names that we've heard in the past. I think when you hear left tackle recently, it's been kind of a no-brainer of Trent Williams. There's been, last year we even talked about Tyron Smith kind of having a resurgence. But then you start to look at guys who are playing really well right now, like a Teron Armstead is, for the point he's at right now in his career, he's playing really good football. But Tunsil's had some injuries. You see Andrew Thomas is out. Christian Darrisaw is out. So I'm going to switch it up a little bit right now. To me, and depending on the week, I think the best two tackles right now in terms of left tackle right now in football are a combination of either Tristan Wirfs or Rashawn Slater. I think you look at back and forth. And if you want to kind of look at some tiebreakers, you can go back and look at kind of how they played, maybe against a common opponent like Chase Young. I thought Wirfs had some issues with Chase Young, and I thought Rashawn Slater kind of handled him pretty well. But I think those two are like kind of my 1A and 1B. So, Wirfs has been really good, I would say right now. That's probably my 1A. And then Slater 1B. And I say that because he missed one game.
Yeah. Yeah, this is an interesting discussion. When I put down my list, I still went with Trent Williams first team. Now I know pass protection, especially when you look at some of the numbers that are floating around in terms of pressures and things like that. When you watch his film, some of the stuff that people are calling pressures to me are questionable, highly subjective. I mean, I don't think he's necessarily lost cleanly very often, if at all, this season. Maybe a couple times, but most of it is just kind of like dying slowly. Maybe getting beat initially and then recovering just enough, and then
Agree.
he's a little bit close to the quarterback. So, do you want to call it a pressure or not? It's kind of up in the air. So, I mean, that's really the only thing that you could kind of ding Trent Williams on, and I think that that is fair to a degree. But for me, I keep coming back to sort of the trump card of his game, and what he does in the run game, and just how good that is. And it's really tough to discount that and to not elevate that, above the other two guys who I think are really neck and neck. Um, so even though maybe there's a little bit more hurry slash pressure there that Trent has given up, um, I don't know. For me, I just lean him first team because of how dominant he is as a run blocker, and how special that is. And then you add in sort of the context of him not having the offseason through the holdout, his age and hitting the ground running, and kind of playing into shape like he did, and all that sort of stuff that kind of is little just like feathers in his cap. So, but yeah, I think these are the three names at least that we're going to go first, second, and third team.
Hmm.
It's just the order. It looks like it's going to be a little different for us. So
100%. 100%.
yeah, but the Slater thing, missing a game, that is probably why he'll be on the third team for me. And then also, I just have some notes here, just going over their film a little bit and comparing him and Wirfs in particular. So Wirfs has played two more games than him because Slater also had a bye week.
Yep.
So some of these numbers are a little, that's kind of why they're a little different. So Wirfs has played about 150 more snaps so far, and he is pass blocking on quite a few more than Slater as well. Slater's operating just in kind of a more run first sort of scheme as opposed to Tampa. So that's another kind of consideration. And then when you watch their actual, charted losses, it's pretty dead even, because Slater has had that one clean loss, that strip sack to Nick Herbig,
Yep.
which was his cleanest loss of the year. And then he also had kind of a clean loss against Charles Harris,
Yep.
with the Panthers.
Yep.
That's really, I think, the only two clean losses that you could point to on his film. And then Wirfs, I would say he had maybe two clean ones, both against Denver,
Yep.
Nick Benito, and then there's a rookie named Jonah Ellis. Both kind of beat him outside.
Yep.
Neither for sacks, but and then the rest of his stuff is kind of losing on stunts where him and the left guard just get off levels. That's the bulk of his charted pressures, that I saw. So
I
that's
think,
pretty dead even there, I think.
yeah, and that's why I brought up the game specifically against New Orleans, because that was kind of
Yeah,
in
common
my head.
opponent.
Like, and listen, this is, some people match up better versus certain rushers. I think it's safe to say Rashawn Slater, his entire career, has had Chase Young number since Ohio State. But again, as we talked about, because we exchanged clips a few weeks ago, Young presented some issues for Wirfs with that inside stab and grab, and so 100% right. And I mean, there's going to be guys who Wirfs doesn't struggle with that Slater may have some issues with. So that's just how it goes.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So for us, just kind of round off left tackle, I'm going to go Trent, Wirfs, Slater, and it sounds like you're going to go Wirfs, Slater, Trent.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So let's go to left guard. So I'll kick it off here, and for me, man, so third team is going to be a very interesting discussion. The top two for me, I'm a little more comfortable with. So first team, I'm actually going to go with Joe Thuney, with the Chiefs. So I just think Thuney, man, deserves it. Like, just he's playing really, really crisp, clean football. Not a lot of clean losses at all. He has a couple against the bull rush, as he typically does, where he gets kind of walked back into the quarterback slowly but surely. And that's really, he only has done that a couple times that are real kind of glaring this whole season. Whereas you contrast it with my second team pick, which is, go give it away, Quentin Nelson. He has some pretty decisive losses on film.
Immediately.
Yeah, like, I mean, he's gotten blown up, not only against Cam Hayward, but I think just this past weekend, or the week before, there was another game where he just, I mean, it was a stutter bull and he literally just went flying on his back, didn't get tripped. So he has more of those, whereas Tooney doesn't have that. Now you can say, okay, Q has more of the impact blocks in the run game, I would say, although Tooney's been very good there too. But I'm going to weigh Tooney's consistency a little bit higher here and give him the nod. I just think he's been the best left guard in football this year, week in, week out. It's just been extremely consistent. And yeah, so those are my first two. So I'll at least kick it off with that. And then I'm interested to hear which way you're going.
Yeah, I actually had Tooney as well, first
Okay.
team, and Nelson
Nice.
second team for all the same exact reasons that you just mentioned. And I think
Okay.
that it's important to cite those because that's kind of the differentiator. I think that Tooney has been much more consistent in every phase of the game. So I'm right there with you on that. The third team for me was the difficult one.
Yeah,
At left guard.
absolutely.
And it's difficult because had you asked a couple of weeks ago, and I'm probably still leaning here, but I'm going to say Tyler Smith,
Okay.
simply because. But I mean, he played left tackle and then he's played left guard, but rookie center, rookie left tackle. You could tell like the chemistry isn't quite there yet. So I don't think that Tyler Smith has been able to play as aggressive as he typically likes to and thrives in. And I think that kind of takes away from his game a bit. So that would be my third team, though, left guard.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to agree with you there as well. I have been a little bit underwhelmed with him, and I think you outlined some of the reasons. I just haven't seen as much of the commanding wins either in pass protection or the run game. He's been, I think, well rounded and pretty good, overall, especially considering having to move positions, new starters next to him, so on and so forth. But it's not what he was doing last year up until this point. But that said, the other considerations here for me, like you look at the big name guys like Batonio or Dickerson,
Yeah,
they've just had
they
more struggles than Tyler.
yeah,
Yeah,
they haven't played well, man,
yeah,
and that's the interesting thing. And you can also say, and we can get into this a little later in the podcast. I think the defenses now they're presenting some issues with finding matchups and then also just different fronts that they're using. There's a whole lot now that these interior guys are starting to have to worry about. And we can get into that a little later, kind of our notes of what we're seeing on tape. But especially when you look at like some of these teams are run the gauntlet when it comes to D tackles. And I think that Dallas is one of those teams that is running the gauntlet where you're talking about look at a couple of pairs that they played against. There hasn't been really a team for them to quote unquote get back on track with up front. So I mean, there's no breaks, man. There's no breaks for them. They've been stressed every single week. When you look at, they've had to play Pittsburgh, they've had to play Detroit, they've had to play Cleveland, they've had to play San Fran. Like, man,
Giants.
the Giants, man, those
Yeah, yeah.
those fronts create not just schematic matchup problems, but individual one-on-one matchup issues and nightmares in some cases.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, last week was maybe one of the easier games against the Niners, just because Hargrave's out.
Yeah.
So, that was one. But even still, Tyler Smith, that I know there was a spin move he lost against. It was a touchdown pass. It was Malik Collins, I
Malik
think.
Collins, man.
Yeah, Malik is underrated.
I was going to say Malik Collins is one of the most underrated
Yeah, so
tackles.
it's really not a break.
I
Yeah.
think people lost track of Malik early on in his career because he had back-to-back years where he had lower leg injuries and it slowed him. But
It was
he's
always flashes,
yep, he
Yeah.
is a guy that in the mode of a Grady Jarrett and in the mode of all those guys that are really low to the ground and difficult to block that can put you in the blender. And
Yep.
it's tough, man. It's tough playing against guys like that.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a good point as far as schedule for them, and it's not getting a whole lot easier
It's not going to get easier.
the rest of the year. I mean, they do have Carolina, but that's late in the year. I mean,
But
aside
they've
from
got,
that, man.
but they've got an Atlanta team that's turning back into form in terms of, we talked about Grady. Some of these guys are coming back off an injury. They don't have a Lorenzo Carter, but I mean, they've got really good pass rushers up front.
Yeah, yeah. That's a great point as far as schedule goes. So another guy that I wanted to at least mention here, who I think is playing some of the best football of his career, is Ben Powers. I don't know. I mean, I think
Yeah,
Powers is
yeah,
playing really good football right now.
I agree.
Pretty clean. So that's another left guard that I considered for the third team here as well. He would probably be my next guy, honestly. I don't know who else I'd put in there.
Speaking of best football of their career, and we could backtrack a little bit. Dan Moore is playing really well in Pittsburgh, man, and I think that between him and Zach Frazier, those have been the most consistent beacons of light on that offensive line, and so I just want to give him some accolades on that.
Yeah, I'm going to be really interested to see him get into divisional play because the Steelers haven't played one divisional opponent this year,
No,
which is kind of crazy.
their division creates some.
Hendrickson, Miles.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I want to
And then
see.
all the rushers from Baltimore.
Yeah. Yep.
It doesn't matter who you get. I mean, hell, you may get Matabike out there,
Right.
Van Noy. Like, I mean, there's some
Yeah.
guys out there
Yep.
that can go.
Yeah, so that's kind of a caveat there too with Moore. Like they played Dallas, Micah didn't play, and then, but they've seen some pretty decent pass rushers, and he's definitely playing the best football of his career, though I think for
Mhm.
sure. All right, yeah, let's go on to center here. So again, for me, top two is pretty clear, whatever order you want to do, and then third is going to be interesting, but. Interested to see how you stack this one. I'll let you go first since let's just alternate here. I went left guard, so you go center. Who are you picking first here?
So my first team right now is Creed. I got Creed
Okay.
Humphrey as first team.
Same here. Same here.
Yep, I got Creed as first team center. And I just
He
think
just doesn't lose.
I was just
I
going
mean,
to say, I just think that like
where are the losses? It's tough to find him, man.
he
It's tough to
doesn't
find him.
he doesn't lose, man.
I know
And
it's
that's
real
the
tough to
thing.
find him.
He doesn't lose. Plain
No.
and simple.
Yeah, that's straight. Yeah. So and then with second team, who are you going there?
Ooh, man. So my second team right now, and they both have missed games for my second and third team, but I've got Zach Frazier. I'm putting Zach Frazier as
Okay.
my second team, and then my third team would be it'd be Frank Ragnow.
Nice. Okay.
Yep.
Man, so Frank was on my second team. I think the thing that's keeping him from first team to me is really like one game where the bulk of kind of his struggles came, and that was against Tampa, Vita Vea, who's kind of been his Achilles heel in his career.
His entire career.
It
goes back to what we were just talking about. Some guys match up against other guys, and they handle them, or they have some success. And some guys create and present matchup problems for other guys. It's how it is.
Yeah, and that's definitely one. But so far, I mean, funny enough, Creed's playing Vita Vea Monday Night Football this week, so that's gonna be a great matchup.
That matchup, and then I tweeted this earlier in the week. That matchup, when I looked at the schedule, was one that I was highly interested in, and then Dexter Lawrence and Zach Frazier, which we didn't get because Zach is out with a high ankle sprain. But those are two matchups in back-to-back weeks that I've been really looking forward to. So I think we got to wait. We got to wait again for the Frazier and Lawrence matchup.
Yeah, we do. All right, third team for me is really tough, man. I mean, Frazier, it's tough for me to pick him, even though I think he's probably been the third best center just because of the missed games. I think on this one, I just want to give a shout out to this guy, and he's playing maybe the best football of his career, and that's Tyler Biadasz.
Badger is playing really well, man.
Dude, he's playing really well. I mean, granted,
He's banged up.
So being banged up too, that adds to it. It's just what he's done in the screen game has been outstanding, and the run game in general.
Yeah.
I think also just a testament to the way that offense is put together is tremendous. You could see the details there, everybody being on the same page. You have a quarterback who could bail you out when needed, and Jaden Daniels. It's a run kind of first operation.
Was interesting about their offense, because I watched their offense very closely because of Biotish. He's asked to do a lot, like that pivot position in that offense. Like, they ask him to do a whole lot mentally and physically, and I don't think Dallas appreciated him. I don't think the front office
Yeah.
appreciated him. And I can say this now. People know my relationship with Dallas, the entire organization. But I'm a players first guy. And Biotish is a guy that I have been very instrumental with his development. When he was with the Cowboys, we would meet twice a week to go over stuff, and we still meet twice a week via FaceTime and going over stuff. But I think, and a lot of teams do this, I think teams put guys in a box and they don't let them get out of that box. So when they drafted Tyler Biotish in the 4th round, and he was coming off the hip injuries, he had a couple of rough outings his first year and got hurt. And then he had a couple of rough outings to start the season. His second year, when they had to run the gauntlet, all of a sudden they had Pittsburgh, they had Philly, they had Tampa Bay, all in back-to-back weeks. And they put zero noses right over him, and he struggled. But then midway through that year, his second year, he started to get it. We started to identify issues and things that he needed to work on. And to me, from his 3rd year and then leading up to last year, I thought that he was the guy who was like, okay, we got this guy in the 4th round. He has fully realized his potential. I think he ended up going to 2 Pro Bowls as an alternate, but that's a testament to kind of, his trajectory of where he had been at.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that Dallas took that for granted, that they thought, okay, we can be better than that. Physically, maybe, yes, you can get better physical traits than with Tyler. But in terms of experience and tried and true time under tension, and then that mental knowledge of what the center position requires, that is forged only under fire that you would receive on Sundays. And so you kind of start over at that position. And I'm not saying that because Tyler Biotish is my guy. Every center we just talked about, with the exception of Frank Ragnow, I work with, so it's like, this is just my perspective on it, including Cooper Beebe. Cooper Beebe is going to be a fine center. Physically, mentally, like, he has it. He's a salt of the earth, play strength. He has it all. But I think Dallas took Tyler Biotish for granted. I think he was on a mission to prove that it wasn't just, hey, I'm playing next to Tyler Smith and I'm playing next to Zach Martin, therefore I'm covered up. He's going out there and he's making a fucking statement every single week. And actually right now he's doing it with a broken thumb that he's had for the last 3 weeks. So,
wow.
Yeah, man, you're right. Tyler Biotish is playing some great football.
Yeah, he really is. I mean, I've been watching him every week. When I watch Headline, him and Cosme have been fun to watch.
Sam has been very fun to watch, and we'll get to that here shortly. And here's the interesting thing about it that we always talk about is one thing that we look for every single week, because we send the clips back and forth, is Biotish out in space. I mean, we can make a compilation of just him going out and picking on linebackers and DBs.
And it's really why I appreciate him so much in that regard specifically is because he's not the most athletic guy, yet he's picking off guys in space.
Well, here's the thing.
Maybe underrated athletic ability, but I think it's the angles, the timing, the pace, the spatial awareness, like all the little stuff for him is just dialed in.
Here's the thing about that, which is why I say that so now let's get into the development side.
Yeah.
So Tyler Biotish, 5 years ago, whenever it is, he first came to me, couldn't get through our dynamic warm-up. He came off the hip surgery, then had a hamstring. He couldn't get through our dynamic warm-up. But we identified very early what it was he needed to work on. And that kid has gotten better and better. Yes, it's the angles, but I've got to cut a couple of litmus tests and a couple of tests that we implement in during training. And the timing mechanisms of these tests kind of tell you in terms of the echelon some of these players are in. So there's a test we call a lateral agility test called a 357. And Tyler Biotish, Rashawn Slater, um, who else? Dan Moore, Teron Armstead, and I need to go back and look at my notes, but like you're talking about some of the top times. Oh, Cesar Ruiz, you're talking about some of the top times we've recorded on these. And Biotish wasn't always there. Biotish was a guy that was starting around 11 seconds. And then all of a sudden it went to 10-7. And then it went to 10-5. And then all of a sudden it's 10 flat. And then all of a sudden he's in the nines. Well, every guy that we've had do this, including Lane and including Rashawn and including Teron and some of the athletic guys, like those guys are in the nines. So when Biotish got to the nines, it was like, oh, wait a minute. Like this is really a guy that's moving with intent. And so when he does get out in space and his acceleration and then the body control to be able to track and be able to use certain angles, like he knows what he's doing because he's become a really efficient and effective mover. And I think that movement efficiency and being a literate mover goes a long ways, not only on the interior O-line, but just out in space. And I think when you start to talk about the development of offensive linemen and all these learned skills that we talk about at the summit all the time, it's a movement-based position. And if you can clean up movement, if you can clean up joint angles, if you can clean up body positioning and be able to use your training and use your strength, then you're going to be an effective football player more times than not. But then I see guys who have every teachable and tangible athletic trait, but aren't really great movers, and they really struggle to translate those athletic traits into a technique that they can replicate over and over again.
Yeah, it's like, do you have quick feet or do you have good feet?
Yep.
Like there's a difference. And
Yep. Absolutely.
yeah, Biotish, man. I just really appreciate his game, and it's cool to see that offensive line far outpace my expectations of them coming into the year. When I did my offensive line rankings, I didn't see, I was skeptical of Cliff Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator, based on his NFL track record. But obviously he's learned, he's adapted, he's changed things.
And there's no fucking
Quarterback
gimmicks with this whole line. There's no gimmicks. They're going out there, they're straining, they're having to run outside zone, they're having to run some gap scheme stuff, they're running some inside zone, some dual, they're getting out in space. It's not a lot of smoke and mirrors. They do have that X factor in number 5, but they're doing the dirty work. I mean, think about the Arizona game, some of those short yardage where you see the O-line really re-leverage and straining at the point of attack, and being able to seal off. Like there was some of that short yardage stuff when you looked at the third angle from behind where you really see the guys really trying to turn and leverage with their outside hand and close off with their inside hand, man. So I think credit to that offensive line. I think, credit to Bobby Johnson.
Yeah, for sure.
To what's happening. I know he's been scrutinized a lot for his time with the Giants, but that unit and that team is playing really well right now. They're
scrappy for sure. Yep. They're definitely a scrappy unit. A little bit of an overachieving element there. They do have some talent for sure, but yeah, I will say too, I think it's important just to point out that their schedule hasn't been super tough in terms of defensive lines, especially on the interior. The Bengals, Cardinals, or these Panthers, Bears, Billings.
They played the Giants.
They did play the Giants this week in Tampa. Those are the two. I really am going to be interested to see how they go against the Steelers, the Eagles, and then maybe the Cowboys if Micah and D-Law are back. So
they play against the Giants again this week. So
yep, and that's tough. Going against Debs, of course, who's a monster.
We'll get to that too, because maybe now is the time to talk about this. Or do you want to wait and talk about kind of what we observed up front?
Yeah, let's wait. Let's just wait. Let's go to right guard. So this is me here kicking this off. This one, man, is really interesting and a challenge for me personally because the years that we've been doing this, it's always the same guy.
Yep.
And this year, man, I'm not sure that that's
Nope.
the case. But I'm struggling honestly, like how to order this because
There's
I
four. There's four names right now.
okay, I think I have four too. They may not be the same as yours, but um, man, I this one's tough. Part of me wants to go somewhere like Cosme, to give that recognition, but
He's my. He is probably my third or fourth name.
okay, I'm not going to go Cosme either. So I'll just say I have second team. I'm still probably going to go Zach with second, but first and third are tough. So let's just go through some names and let's try to maybe do this together because this one I'm indecisive on. I think Quinn is playing pretty well, so that's a guy that I have in this consideration.
Quinn is my first team.
Is he your first? Okay.
My first.
That's probably the way that I was leaning as well. I mean, first name that I bring up is Quinn. So I would probably go Quinn too. He's playing good football this year. Both those guards are playing really good football this
I
year, and
agree.
they're fun to watch. One of the best guard tandems in the league. Um, Another name that I'll throw out there who's playing pretty good, not totally clean, is I mean I think Brandon Scherf's playing pretty good football.
He is very good
Um,
football.
Better than last year for sure. So maybe just that uptick in play. He's not getting caught as much as he typically does. Still getting caught sometimes, but last year, I mean, it was pretty rough in terms of his approach, that ultra aggressive, heavy outside hand jump set
Up
type of
kicks
approach, up
and
kicks. Yeah,
square up kick.
yep, and it's fun to watch him because it lands a lot and it's commanding. It'll stop stuff real quick, disrupt stunts and all that sort of stuff. But it's just hitting more this year. So that was the name that I had here. I don't know if I would mention another guy above those guys. I mean,
Lindstrom.
Lindstrom and so Lindstrom,
We talk about this internally a lot with Lindstrom.
it's the highs are so high,
And then the pass pro lows are
but
very, very low.
the lows are, yeah, they happen a little too often. I think
A couple of
so
times a game. But
it does.
his run game and
Yeah, his run blocking
blocks, second 11 blocks are elite.
yeah, it
Elite.
is. Kind of goes to the Trent thing in terms of what he does in the run game is just so dynamic. It's
Yeah, and like if I was leaning, that's why I didn't go with Trent though, because if I was just leaning solely on like the run game, like Trent would be first team, Lindstrom would be higher up, but I still think like I said, I think Quinn is playing excellent football.
yeah,
I think Zach is playing banged up right now, but Zach is still very, very good.
yeah. I know, right? That's
I mean, he's had a couple of Tomlinson was a clean loss.
yep.
Pierce
And then
was,
Detroit,
yeah,
that
but
game.
listen, man, those dudes,
Yeah, McNeil and
the only. So this is
Onwuzurike.
interesting. Let's talk about this real quick. The best guard that I've seen play against them so far has been Skoronski last week.
Oh yeah, that was his best game.
His best game.
We talked about this. Yep.
His jump set, his up kick, it was hitting. I think he got walked back once, but he probably played that tandem the best I've seen through 8 weeks so far. It was good to see, man. It was really good to see.
Yeah,
but yeah,
hard to disagree on that. Yeah,
but I can think of like 3 losses: Detroit, Cleveland, and Baltimore. Those were probably the 3. A late loss against San Fran. He got pulled, but his foot was stepped on, I believe. But still, I mean, like we're talking about a future Hall of Famer.
Yeah, the standard is so high with him that when it deviates from it, I think people overreact.
They do. I mean, I saw fans saying Zach is washed. He needs to retire.
Yeah. That's insane. That's bananas. Yeah, you can't say that stuff. When you watch him every game and stuff, I mean, he's still one of the best guards in the league. It's just he's had a couple of those games this year that he typically doesn't have, and a lot of it could be probably attributed to being banged up. And
Yep.
I think the stopping power for him there and just being able to maintain that posture, when he's getting push pulled or dealing with power,
That's where you're seeing it show up.
yeah,
That and then the quick redirect out in space. Like normally he's really just so fluid and sudden. If like somebody undercutting him in space, you
you
can't
see
see
that
that.
on stunts too, like
Mhm.
on the looper on TEs. He's a
Yep,
little tick late getting off those sometimes.
yep.
Granted he's been held a couple times on those too, but all right. So yeah, I'm gonna go Quinn, Martin, and then I'll go Lindstrom as well. Are you going Lindstrom 2, Martin 3, or how are you doing that?
No, I'm going Zach 2, Lindstrom
Okay.
3, and then Sam Cosmi would be my fourth.
Yeah,
And man, Sam is right there on the verge of being, a top guy, like
he
playing.
is, man.
Dude, Sam has been so fun to watch. And like he just kind of has that I don't give a fuck attitude in terms of being able to jump guys and play long and the
And he's
physicality.
so dang athletic
Yeah,
too
yeah, I
and
like it, man. I
strong.
like it. I
Yeah.
think that he's playing really well. And then if you see the flashes still with a guy like Sheriff, as we were talking about, as you
Yeah.
do with Shaq Mason. But to me, those two guys right now, their units are struggling.
Oh yeah.
It's
Especially
not,
Houston. Gosh.
yeah,
Yeah. That's rough. Yeah. Mason, yeah, Shaq's to me, I don't, it's tough to parse out how much of it is due to what's around him
I
versus
know.
like he's lost clean a couple times, but it's I don't know. He's not at the top of their issues. I'll say that. I don't think
No,
that's
no,
for sure.
man. He's been
Um,
playing pretty. He's not playing to the level he was last year, and I think part of that is because of the unit.
yeah, I agree.
There's a lot going on around him. And the thing about Houston, and we can get to this later, or maybe this is a Pandora's box we don't need to even open. But I think the answers to their O line still lie within the organization. I think they can move a few pieces around and make that offensive line that more efficient and effective.
Yeah, and I'm curious. Just we get to go into this a little bit more now. Just it seems like they want to put Patterson at left guard. Don't I think center is his position, right?
Center is his
That's his
best.
best pro spot.
Center is his
It's
best
kind
pro
of
position.
it's kind of curious why they seem to be favoring that as opposed to center. I don't understand.
It's really weird, man. Like to me, Jared Patterson at center, his first 8 games last year before he broke his leg, and then a preseason and then early on in the season, it was just natural that that's what he is. I think they need
Yeah,
to iron out the communication issues and then iron out just kind of being on the same page and the seeing things through 5 sets of eyes as one.
yeah.
And sometimes that starts at the pivot. Sometimes that starts with I don't know. It'll be interesting, but I think they've got all the answers they need. It's just a matter of, you know, like kind of moving them around a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree with that as well. Whereas there's some other teams, I'm doing my offensive line ranking, my midseason rankings for Establish the Run right now, and I'm writing about some of these bottom, 10 units. Whereas, like, I think the Seahawks, for instance, they have some answers coming. George Fant's coming back,
Yep.
Abraham Lucas is probably coming back. So, right tackle and that issue should be kind of
Yep.
taken care of a little bit. The Titans are on the other end to me where they don't have an answer at right tackle, and that's probably
Zero,
going to be an issue. You know,
zero. Man,
that's why I have Seattle above them. But anyway, yeah. So it's interesting. Some teams have some answers, and some teams clearly don't. So
I don't know. Like,
it's tough.
listen, Bill Callahan's track record speaks for itself, but
Yeah.
he can't just take, you know, uh, any old street free agent or anything and turn them into a player. Like, no matter how much people think, there has to be a baseline level of shit to a guy
Yeah.
for him to be able to develop it. And I think they're on their fourth right tackle right now.
Yeah. It's
I'm,
bad, dude.
yeah, I don't. I think Petit Farrat. I think they've been down on him, which is why they keep yanking him out.
Yeah, he
Uh,
struggled massively.
yeah, and then I think that
They have Leroy Watson,
yeah,
who's
and then
got some run, and
Jalen
then
Duncan. I think maybe tore
Dunk.
his hamstring. It looked bad, like within like the first quarter.
And then John Ojokwu from Boise State is kind of a stiffer kind of guy. Like I
never,
don't
I
see that
never,
going so far.
yeah, I never really
Yeah.
viewed him as a tackle.
Yeah, that one's gonna be tough to make that work. It's kind of pulling down the whole line there, So, and so it's just interesting. So yeah, I mean, going back to the Houston Texans, there are some viable answers there on the roster, so it could get better. We'll see how it works out, but
What about speaking of which? What about Jacksonville?
yeah, well,
Based upon the move they did this week.
I mean, yeah, they definitely shook it up. Walker Little now playing tackle. It'll be interesting. I thought, in that game, I only watched a little bit of that game, but I thought he looked okay. I thought there definitely was at least one clean loss that he had inside. I don't remember who it was, but um, I'm just questioning Walker Little's play strength in terms of anchoring. That would be my question. Not that Cam Robinson was necessarily anchoring a whole lot better. So I think Walker Little could replicate what Cam has been, at least. And in terms of the ceiling there, that's what I question. I don't know how much better it'll get. So we'll see. I mean, I understand, I guess, why they did it. I don't know all the internal stuff that was going on there, but I guess Cam refused to play or something like that because he wasn't starting. That's what was in the media. I think he refused to play or something.
Well, he had a concussion, and
right, and then he was healthy to play or something, and didn't
yeah,
get the
but
job back. Or
I think they purposely weren't going to play him because they were trying to trade him.
Okay,
I think that's what I think the internal of it was.
Yeah,
they wanted to bench him to avoid him getting hurt because they were shopping him.
Okay, got you. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on their line then?
It's interesting, man, because you got Mitch Morse,
Mhm.
you got Anton Harrison, you got Brandon Sheriff, you got Cleveland, who's playing pretty decently. And I tweeted this earlier out in the year. I think that Jacksonville is way too talented to be as bad as they are right now.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, man. There's something not right about the entire team off. I don't know. I can't quite put my finger on it, but I think
I know you're right. You're right.
I
There's
I
not
don't
good
know.
vibes there. It just seems like you talk about a team like Washington where everything just seems like they're on the same page. It's dialed in. There's a
Lions,
cohesion there. In some teams you watch it and it's just they cannot get right. Like the Lions are the pinnacle of this in terms of being just dialed in. Play calls are at the
well
right
oiled.
time. Yeah, well-oiled machine for sure. And Jacksonville has been the opposite of that for years now. So I think the talent there is better than what we've seen come to fruition as a unit, I think, as
I
well.
agree.
So
I agree.
that's one of those things in a year or two with some of those pieces, if they're still there, they could just play a lot better, with different, operating in a different scheme. Um, so yeah, that's kind of interesting there. All right, let's go to
Yep.
right tackle. So this is you, I think, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So this is interesting. I'll just say I have three, maybe four names here. With the top two kind of being easy, but yeah, curious how you're going to order this.
Yeah, I've got Lane at 1 and then Panay at 2. And
Yep, same
then
here.
3 and 4 are very interesting.
Yes.
It's interesting to who you would say, but I think some people may say Joe Alt, but
He's in my consideration.
I'm going to say Spencer Brown. I think Spencer
Okay,
Brown
that was
from
the other guy
Buffalo.
for me too.
Yeah, I think Spencer Brown from Buffalo is playing really well. I think Aaron Cromer has done a phenomenal job assisting in that development. And man, I really like his trajectory, what he's done.
Same here. Yeah, he's just interesting, just kind of the backdrop of him and how it's worked out, coming from a small school, Northern Iowa,
Yep.
freakazoid athlete in terms of just being 6'8" and moving the way he does, but it was just he was very raw. Didn't see good competition in college.
Him and Penningworth, I mean, have been the same in terms of
Their profile is similar.
well, they both went to the same school. One was
Yeah.
right tackle, the other was left tackle. can you picture you play Northern Iowa and you got a fucking 6'8" tackle at right that's athletic, a 6'7" tackle at left that's athletic, and they both have very bad intentions, you know?
Yep. Yep.
So those small school finds, if you can get them, develop them, and get them on track, man, it doesn't matter where you went to school at.
No, it doesn't. And I think the difference in those two guys is just the fluidity of movement with Brown, his movement patterns, and just some of the replicable technique that we've talked about. He
I
has
agree.
been able to figure that out to a degree that's really impressive, and it's just a huge jump from what he was his first year or two in the league. And Cromer's been there. He got there in 2022. And then I think right away, that second half of the year, we started to kind of see a little bit more flashes from Brown. And then the last 2 years, it's just been an upward trajectory to the point now where he has one of the best snatch trap techniques in the league. He's landing his strike. He's anchoring much better, which is tough for guys 6'7" plus. So he's not on the level of the top two guys, obviously not there yet, but he's trending in the right direction. And I think I'm probably going to go with him at third team too, because all missing the game. And yeah, I mean, I think their level of play has been pretty similar though, which is a shout out to Joe Alt doing that day one.
Yep.
He's
I
been
mean,
as advertised though.
we kind of knew that was going to be the case.
Yeah. So okay, so yeah, we have the same four guys there. Anything new or notable you want to mention with Lane or Panay? I mean, it's kind of more of the same stuff, really, right?
They are, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Lane is a guy that makes things look so effortless.
Yep.
He's been a very bright spot on the offense that sometimes has stuttered over the last 9 weeks. And then Panay will wow you with a lot of the stuff he does, especially on the move and in the run game.
Mm-hmm.
But I think last year we talked about this, but I think it's time to accept that this is year 12 for Lane. It's time to accept that like this dude's probably a Hall of Famer.
Yeah,
and I think he deserves to be. But I know earlier on with a lot of the suspensions, people, but like nobody kind of talks about that stuff anymore. People, because I think he's been so not just good, but so elite and dominant, and you can quantify it now, especially how he erases a lot of these elite rushers. Man, he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
And the way it looks when he's going against non-elite rushers, it's so overwhelmingly dominant that it's there's nothing like it, man. I mean, he's probably the best overall tackle in the NFL.
I think he's the best tackle in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree, right? Especially this year, with Trent having a little bit more struggles in pass pro than normal. Yeah, I mean, I think Lane is the
best tackle in the NFL.
Yeah, he is.
It's crazy, man, when you start to think of some of these names that have been around and have been good for a long time: Trent Williams, Tyron Smith, Teron, Zach Martin, Lane. Like, man, it could be after this year that a lot of these guys are done. It could be after next year.
Changing of the guard.
Man, the face of what we know as all Ryan Jensen retired, like when these guys, dude, it could look a lot different here in the next year or two,
Absolutely. Martin, Lane, Trent. I mean, they're just those three.
Yeah. I mean, like they're not really, we talked about them slowing down and stuff, but like they're still, all those guys we just mentioned are playing at a really, really high level still, It may be a little notch below what they have been, with the exception of Lane. Lane hasn't lost anything. But man, again, like it's just crazy. It's one of those things where like just appreciate it, enjoy it right now.
Yeah, exactly.
It could be next year. It could be after this year. It could be within the next couple of I think you have to accept the fact that after the next couple of years that like it is gonna probably look a lot different.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, and that's what I try and mention to people too. Like that's why first names I watch every week when I turn on the film are those guys, just because I want to soak it in and just study what they're doing and just just appreciate it, and then see if I could pick up on anything new and just see what I can learn, just watching the best of the best. So All right, to wrap up, let's just kind of go over some of the trends that we've seen across the NFL with either offensive, defensive line play, um, especially as it pertains to last week, week 8, and just kind of what you saw, but overall trends is fine too. Um, let's see. So some of the notes that I have from last week, a few individual players that I wanted to talk about. One, and kind of like a negative side here, is kind of the Jets offensive line, but really Tyron Smith, who I think is persistently struggling with something from a technique approach that he, I guess has always struggled with in his career with the,
Outside
heavy
in.
outside hand. Yeah, and do you think it's just as simple as this year, it's just another year of wear and tear on his body? The injuries have accumulated to the point where now when he gets caught, his recovery just isn't the same. So they're just more clean losses. That to me is what it looks like.
I think it's that. I think that D linemen I say this every year, they're getting better and better with their
More
hand.
aware of.
Like you cannot straight on two hand strike and you cannot outside hand straight on. Like it
Yeah.
has to be some type of loop and like, but if you just, these guys are too good with their hand. That's what they practice against all day is hand shit, flip their hips, get up the field. But I think that's exactly it. I think that these guys are getting good with their hands. I also think that based upon last year or based upon the last couple of years, I think Tyron is turning a little sooner than he usually does. So if you look at like his set point, he's more of an angled setter, but like he would always keep strong outside shoulder and hip, and like that hip is getting a little soft sooner than it typically did. And it's not much. But as we know, adjusting the relationship between the tackle and the rusher, all it takes is just being a fraction off, and it allows that DN to edge you. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot.
Yeah, and maybe opening up a little early to compensate for the fact that he knows maybe he's not moving, with the same
Maybe.
degree of, quickness as he typically does. So
Epinesa, Van Noy, there's been a lot of rushers. It'll be
yeah,
interesting to see tonight how that
right.
plays out.
Yep. And as far as a trend too, I think this has been kind of a yearly trend now for at least a couple of years, just how advanced defenses have gotten with simulated pressures.
Yep.
That's just, again, I think last year it really jumped out to me, but this year it's just kind of more of the same. So, teams aren't having to blitz as much, I don't think, but they're giving the impression that they are, with they could bring 4, but they're not bringing the 4 that you think. And they're really good at fooling guys, wasting guys. And I think time and time again, we see that against the best of the best, including all the way up to, somebody like Detroit's line, early in the year, especially, they were getting kind of fooled with that quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, I see that again with pretty much the best lines in the league, all the way down, of course, to the bottom tier ones really struggle with it. But maybe, like, have you talked about that with the guys that you talk to, and
Yeah.
just how are they combating that?
You can't. Well, not that you can't, but there's no rhyme or reason to what teams are doing, which is why it's so effective. So what you're getting on a lot of third and long looks, third and medium looks, is load front, where you've got either 2 outside, maybe a spinner or a walker over the guard, which is either going to be head up, 3, or even like a 4-eye. And that could be a linebacker, that could be a 3 technique. And then you may get a double A-gap mug look off of that. And what teams are doing is they may send 3, they may send 4. They may do a 3-man game where you got slants across your face, and then they're looping a guy all the way back around late. So what they're really trying to do is isolate and manipulate like where the sort is going, and then send like a free runner back at the void. And so that's pretty much what's happening all the time. One of the things that I'm always telling the guys is the worst thing that you can do is start to turn in your set on third down towards those rushers, because one, you can't see what's coming towards you if something is picking you.
Guys are getting picked a lot.
Baltimore runs a ton of physical stunts. They pick guys with D linemen, and then they'll send a linebacker to pick just straight cannonball. Detroit runs a ton of
Vikings.
Yeah, Vikings run a ton of physical stunts. And so you get the elements of the timing where they're running deep stunts up the field, where they're acting like it's a rush, running deep stunts, or they're running immediate physical stunts where they're getting you to turn, they're picking, or they're grabbing. It's very difficult. There is not a clear-cut answer for these O-line units to really pick these up. But one of the things that I always tell guys is picking up stunts on Sundays start on Monday's preparation and Tuesday's preparation. It's being able to prepare for those looks with all 5 guys in the room. And then that preparation leads to communication, leads to execution of picking up the twist. And another thing that I always tell guys is we want to try to stay square with our numbers to the goal line and expand late. You got more time than you think because we want everything to happen in front of us. It's eventually going to develop in front of us. We don't want it to develop on our shoulder or on any of our edges. Another thing that I tell the interior guys, specifically on 3rd and medium and 3rd and long, is anything that comes into you that is trying to cross your face, don't try to anchor on it. Play long, carry it, and snap it off because there's probably something coming back at you. So it's tough, man, but that's a trend that we're seeing a whole lot, whether it's true load look where you get, the 2 outside and then the walker over the guard, or you're getting kind of a mug look where the extra guy step down where there's kind of 7 around the line of scrimmage. It's tough. I think that like the prime example is like watch Arizona versus the Chargers. They got after them with a lot of that, where they didn't, really have better rushers.
They manufactured it.
They manufactured a pass rush.
Yeah.
The thing that's interesting to me, and I've been saying this since week 1, is I think that probably the least talented defensive front and defensive line in the NFL right now is probably Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't do a whole lot to manufacture a pass rush. It's really interesting to me.
So it stands out, their lack of talent. In a major way, yeah.
100%.
And then when you have the talent and you're doing it, that's when you're cooking with gas, right? That's like Denver this year, for instance, like John Franklin Myers and Zach Allen.
They're wrecking the shop right now. Benito.
Yeah. And then the edge rushers are all kind of frisky, twitchy kind of guys that you got to be.
I mean, even Malcolm Roach right now is coming in there on some down a distance and being
DJ Jones.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
They
blitz a lot, so.
They do. They blitz, I think, on like
aggressive.
I think it was like upper 40% or something like that.
Yeah, them in Minnesota are blitzing like crazy. I know that. And KC, of course. The
other thing that's really sticking out to me, man, Dexter Lawrence may have 20 sacks at nose tackle.
I love Dex. Yeah.
I think what's he got? 8 or 9 right now? Maybe 10.
Yeah, I think 8 or 9. Oh, yeah. He's head and shoulders the best nose tackle in the league. I mean, he's one of the best nose tackles. I mean, studying film over the last 10 years or so, man, I can't think of a nose tackle who was this much of a force against the pass. I don't know. There's been some run defender guys like Snacks and Linval in his prime, but pass rushing wise, dude, he's
right now it's like different. Him and Beth. I mean, like we're in an age where those are 2 big, large dudes that can pass. Like Vea's ability to pass rush, it's like I don't think it could be understated or overstated enough because like when they feel like they have a matchup, they'll put 50 out on the edge on you. And
he has a little more wiggle to his game. Like
he does, and he's probably 370.
I know he could spin and like stuff like that. Dex is just the bull rush is just. It's just demoralizing.
You know what's interesting is this year in the run game, I've seen Dex get moved more this year in the run game.
Yeah, he has.
Than usual.
Philly moved him around.
Yeah, but the difference is when he tracks the ball and finds the ball, his ability to stack, shed, and get off that block and make a play that's where the freak comes out. It's like you may move him 3 yards off the ball, but then all of a sudden he finds the ball and he's going to make the tackle.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Dex. It's just kind of a category in of itself because, yeah, it's wild, man, what he's doing this year. And just to kind of go back and just cap off to what you were saying about how to most effectively stop or slow down these stunts and aggressive fronts and all this sort of stuff, blitzes and line games. Building the book on defensive coordinators, right? I mean, isn't it? Didn't Olin Kreutz, use that terminology? I
Olin
want to say,
always talks about Olin
build your
always talks
book,
about that.
right? Yeah, you got to
Understand where they
build
come
out,
from.
yeah, tendencies, right? And literally having a notebook for this, and or
I've,
a computer
so I've
file, whatever.
so I've seen this come in the last couple of years, and this year is really. I think this year it has hit the most. But I put together an entire how-to, essentially, 6 keys to twist pickup, like kind
Okay.
of step by step, how you prepare for it, how you drill it. And so on our O Line Masterminds app, we've got a whole section on twist pickup, and I've worked on this for about 2 or 3 years to finally bring it out. And it looks like I bought it out at the perfect time. But a lot of coaches have already reached out to me, really of all levels, and like really good perspective on things that we may be missing, and that's what it is, man. It's not like I'm reinventing the wheel on how to pick up these twists, but like it's just a standard operating procedure that's like, you know what, we're not doing that, and maybe we should be doing it. And so that's really why I created it, is to kind of have a checklist, just like we did with the rules of pass protection and the
Yep.
keys to the run game. It's a checks and balance system to say, okay, well, maybe we need to implement this particular aspect in the preparation, or this particular aspect into drill work, or this particular aspect into our communication line.
Mm. Yeah, I highly recommend people listening to check out Duke's app, the Offensive Line Masterminds app. There's stuff like that, and just, I mean, the level of detail, and just I appreciate the layout of it and how concise it all is. So it's very easy to take in, especially if you're listening to this, you're at the high school level, college level. I mean, all the way up to the pros. But I think to really get the fundamentals down on the high school level and college level, that's where I see the value. Just people should definitely check it out.
It's and what I've explained to people is it's really funny, man, because like everybody has their way of how they want to train and how they want to develop. But we have put so much detail into explanations of everything, and then not even talking about the mastermind clips that are on there, the actual summit clips.
Yeah.
But really, what it is it's O-line for dummies textbook that's digital form. Like, because we teach everything for just like how to set your feet to get in the stance, and then how to develop a stance, and the science behind it, and all those type of things. So it's like, if you have a question about offensive line, it's on there, and we're constantly updating it. And then if you have a question about offensive line training and how you develop certain aspects of it, it's on there. It really is like a textbook and an offensive line for dummies type manual that is right there in the palm of your hands.
All right. So one more trend thing that I wanted to mention here is, and I think actually maybe Baldy pointed this out this week, in terms of the teams that are running the ball the most are
50,
are
55% above, right?
yeah, those teams are winning the most essentially. And I think we all kind of understand that, having an effective run game can open up the pass game, and you want to be balanced and things like that. But I
Yep.
think teams are just running the ball, progressively more over the last couple of years. I think that's a trend that you can look
Yep.
up with data, which makes sense. The NFL being sort of a cyclical league, as they get smaller on defense, we're going to get a little bit more physical and aggressive in the run game on offense, and kind of make you pay. And I think there's an element of that. But then just the creativity in the run game, the use of motion, things like that. But I mean, you look at the run heaviest teams in terms of just rush attempts right now: Baltimore with Lamar Jackson,
Yep.
Buffalo with Josh Allen,
Yep.
KC is 10th with Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
Houston is still up there. They're not doing it as effectively as those teams, but I mean, almost all the best quarterbacks in the league have a potent run game,
Yep.
attached to what they're doing. So I just think,
Yeah.
it just
Baldy texted me yesterday, and he just said the league is making the shift, Duke. And then he sent
it
me the
is.
numbers. And I think really, if you want to have a chance, to win, you have to have an effective run game.
Yep.
You know? And that's really what it boils down to.
So I think one of the ways to say it, and I don't know who said this first, but what is it? You pass to score and you run to win. And I think there's some truth to that, in terms of explosive generating those. Yeah, typically those are going to come with the pass game, but in terms of, ending games and winning games and, opening things up and those sorts of things, it's going to usually come from the run game. And of course, your quarterback is a part of that as well. So having that run threat as a quarterback is obviously big. So, um, yeah, I mean, it just warms my heart to see because I love it, man. I mean, as
All
offensive
right.
line guys, it's
Yep.
awesome. So, all right, man. Is there any other things you want to mention? I think we
No, man.
covered a
I think
lot.
this has been fun, man. I think we
Yeah,
covered a lot. I'm excited to see the second half of the season.
yeah.
Uh, I'm excited. Shoot, I'm excited to dive back in to college tape. We're in the back half of the week now, so the back half of my week is always dedicated to college. Thursday,
Same
Friday,
here.
Saturday. Just but my requirements that I have to get done for the NFL
Hmm.
early in the week. So we'll start watching the college tape. That landscape will start to pan out and iron out and boil down. So I'm interested to see that.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll have to get back together here in another month or two and discuss college for sure. So,
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me, Brandon.
all right, guys. Yeah, and yeah, absolutely, man. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you guys for tuning in. See you later.